There are moments in life when someone occupies your thoughts constantly. You wake up thinking about them. You sleep thinking about them. You replay conversations, imagine scenarios, wonder what they are doing, why they said what they said, why they came into your life, and why they haven't left your heart. And you ask yourself, why can't I stop thinking about this person? Before you label it as love, attachment, or coincidence, pause. As a believer, nothing in your heart happens randomly. Allah is Al-Alim, the all-knowing. He knows what enters your heart before you even recognize it yourself. If someone is constantly on your mind, the question is not only about them. The deeper question is, what is Allah teaching you through this? Sometimes constant thoughts are a test of attachment. Allah places someone in your life not to complete you, but to expose what is incomplete within you. Perhaps you depended on them emotionally more than you depended on Allah. Perhaps your heart leaned toward the creation more than the Creator. And Allah, out of His mercy, allows that attachment to shake you, not to punish you, but to purify you. When your mind refuses to be silent about someone, it may be revealing where your heart has settled. The heart was created to be attached to Allah first. When it clings too tightly to a person, anxiety follows, fear follows, overthinking follows. Why? Because human beings are unstable. They change, they leave, they disappoint. Only Allah is constant. Maybe Allah is telling you, return your heart to me. At other times, thinking about someone constantly may be a sign of unfinished healing. Perhaps they hurt you. Perhaps you hurt them. Perhaps there were words left unsaid. Your mind keeps revisiting the story because your soul is still processing it. And Allah allows this so you confront what you've buried. Instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them? Ask, what is this teaching me about myself? Is it insecurity? Is it fear of abandonment? Is it longing to be valued? Is it loneliness? Allah does not waste your emotions. Even your overthinking can become a path to closeness to Him if you let it. And sometimes, yes, thinking about someone may simply mean you care, but caring is not the same as obsessing. Love in Islam is dignified. It does not humiliate you. It does not consume your worship. It does not make you neglect your salah. If your thoughts about someone are pulling you away from Allah, then that attachment needs discipline. Turn those thoughts into dua. Instead of replaying scenarios, say, Ya Allah, if this person is good for my dunya and akhirah, bring them closer in a way that pleases you. And if they are not, remove them from my heart gently and replace them with something better. Notice the shift. You move from obsession to surrender. Sometimes Allah, He keeps someone on your mind because He wants you to pray for them. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that when you make dua for someone in their absence, the angels say, Ameen, and for you the same. Perhaps your constant thoughts are an invitation to intercede for them, not to chase them. And sometimes the constant thinking is simply withdrawal. You became emotionally attached, and now you are learning detachment. Detachment hurts. It feels like loss, but it is often the beginning of freedom. Ask yourself honestly, if this person disappeared from my life, would Allah still be enough for me? That question reveals everything. Allah may be telling you to elevate your standards. Maybe you are attached to someone who is not leading you toward Jannah. Maybe your heart is restless because deep down you know this connection does not have barakah. The believer's heart finds peace only in what is halal, clear and pleasing to Allah. Do not romanticize what Allah is trying to remove. And do not despair if the feelings are strong. You are human. The companions loved deeply. They felt deeply. But they always brought their emotions back under the guidance of revelation. Feelings are not sinful. What we do with them determines whether they elevate us or break us. If you can't stop thinking about someone, don't panic. Sit with it. Pray 2 rak'ah. Speak to Allah honestly. Say, Ya Allah, you placed this in my heart. Show me why. Purify it, redirect it, or fulfill it in a way that pleases you. When you involve Allah in your emotions, your heart becomes lighter, even if the person remains on your mind. Remember, the one who created your heart knows exactly why it beats faster at the mention of certain names. Trust that if He withholds someone, it is protection. If He delays something, it is preparation. And if He removes someone, it is replacement with something better. The heart is not a small thing in Islam. It is not just a place of emotion. It is the center of your faith. The Prophet ﷺ taught that in the body there is a piece of flesh. If it is sound, the whole body is sound. And if it is corrupted, the whole body is corrupted. That piece is the heart. So when someone occupies your heart constantly, when your thoughts circle around them day and night, this is not something light. This is something sacred that must be examined carefully. Your heart was created with a natural need to love. You cannot remove that need. You were designed to attach, to care, to feel deeply. But the question is not whether you love. The question is who holds the highest place in your heart. Because the heart was created to belong to Allah first, before any spouse, before any child, before any friend, before any dream. Allah. When someone begins to dominate your thoughts, sometimes it is a sign that the scale inside your heart has shifted. You begin to seek their approval more than Allah's approval. You replay their words more than you reflect on the Quran. Your mood rises and falls based on their attention. And slowly, without realizing it, the heart starts depending on creation for what only the Creator can provide: security, worth, peace. This is where anxiety is born, because human beings are unstable. They change, they have moods, they forget, they disappoint. And when your heart leans heavily on something unstable, you will feel unstable. That constant overthinking, that restlessness, that tightness in your chest. Sometimes it is not about love at all. It is about misplaced dependence. Allah, in His mercy, sometimes allows you to feel the weight of that attachment so you recognize it. Not to shame you, not to punish you, but to gently redirect you. Because when your heart belongs to Allah first, loving people becomes balanced. You love them through Him, not instead of Him. Ask yourself honestly, if this person disappeared from my life, would my faith collapse? Would my prayers lose meaning? Would my sense of worth vanish? If the answer feels frightening, that means your heart has given more than it was meant to give. The believer's strength is not that they do not love deeply. It is that their deepest love is anchored in something eternal. When Allah is first, every other love finds its proper size. You appreciate people, but you do not worship their presence. You value them, but you do not lose yourself in them. You care, but you are not consumed. The heart is a trust from Allah. You will answer for what you allowed to control it. Guard it gently, realign it constantly. And whenever you feel someone taking too much space inside you, return to the one who deserves that space the most. Because only when Allah is first does everything else fall into its rightful place. Not every strong feeling is a sign that something is meant to stay in your life. We often assume that intensity means destiny. If it feels powerful, if it consumes our thoughts, if it shakes our emotions, we tell ourselves, this must be from Allah. This must mean something beautiful is coming. But as believers, we must remember that life is a test, and sometimes the strongest emotions are part of that test. Attachment can be imtihan, an examination of your priorities. When someone enters your life and suddenly they occupy your mind, your heart, your energy, Allah may be showing you something about yourself. He may be revealing how quickly your heart leans, how easily it depends, how deeply it seeks validation from creation. The test is not the person. The test is your response. Do you begin compromising your values to keep them? Do you justify what you know is wrong because you fear losing them? Do you delay obedience to Allah because you are emotionally overwhelmed? That is when attachment stops being a blessing and becomes a mirror. It exposes what still needs purification inside you. Sometimes Allah allows you to taste intense connection so you can see the parts of your heart that are still fragile. Perhaps you crave reassurance because you never felt secure. Perhaps you cling because you fear abandonment. Perhaps you overgive because you want to feel chosen. These vulnerabilities do not make you weak, they make you human. But Allah, in His mercy, will not let you build your life on unstable foundations. Think about it. If someone becomes the center of your emotional world, your worship may slowly begin to orbit around them. Your mood depends on their messages. Your productivity depends on their attention. Your peace depends on their consistency. But people are not consistent. Only Allah is. Attachment becomes a test when it begins to compete with your reliance on Allah. And sometimes, when Allah sees that your heart is leaning too heavily in one direction, He shakes that connection. He allows distance. He allows confusion. He allows silence. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to protect you from building your happiness on something temporary. It is painful when an attachment is disrupted. You feel withdrawal. You feel loss. You question everything. But pain itself is not proof that something was meant for you. Sometimes pain is the surgery that saves you. If that person was truly written for you in a way that brings you closer to Allah, no test will remove them permanently. What is written will reach you even if the entire world stands in the way. And if they are not written for you, no amount of attachment will force them to stay with barakah. The believer learns to hold people with an open hand, not a closed fist. You care, but you do not cling. You hope, but you do not demand. You feel deeply, but you surrender the outcome. Strong attachment is not always a sign to chase harder. Sometimes it is a sign to step back and ask, is this bringing me closer to my Creator, or is it slowly replacing Him in my heart? Intensity can be deceiving. When you feel something strongly, your heart races, your mind replays every detail, and you begin to believe that because it feels powerful, it must be right. But strength of emotion is not always a sign of divine approval. Sometimes it is simply a test of where your loyalty truly lies. Attachment often begins innocently, a conversation that felt comforting, a presence that made you feel seen, a connection that seemed effortless. And before you realize it, your emotional world begins to revolve around that person. You check your phone, hoping for their message. Your happiness rises with their attention and falls with their silence. Slowly, your stability becomes tied to their behavior. This is where the imtihan begins. Allah tests us through what we love, not only through hardship, not only through loss, but through affection and desire. When your heart attaches intensely, Allah is observing. Will this attachment lead you closer to me, or distract you from me? Will you protect your values or will you bend them to maintain this connection? Will you trust my decree or will you try to control the outcome? Sometimes attachment exposes hidden weaknesses. You may discover that you seek constant reassurance because you struggle with self-worth. You may realize that you tolerate disrespect because you fear loneliness. You may find yourself compromising modesty, time, or even prayer because the emotional high feels irresistible. The person is not necessarily the problem, the imbalance is. Attachment becomes dangerous when it begins to compete with your dependence on Allah. The heart was designed to rely on something perfect. When it leans heavily on something imperfect, anxiety is inevitable. You start overanalyzing their tone. You question their commitment. You create scenarios in your mind. The emotional turbulence is not random. It is the result of relying on something unstable for stability. In His mercy, Allah sometimes disrupts attachments that are growing in unhealthy ways. He allows misunderstandings. He allows distance. He allows unanswered messages. He allows confusion. And in those moments, you feel pain. You feel rejected. You feel lost. But what if that disruption is protection? What if Allah is preventing you from building your future on something that lacks barakah? We often think that if something hurts, it must be wrong to lose it. But surgery hurts too, and it saves lives. Detachment hurts, yet it can save your faith. The believer learns that not every strong connection is meant to last, and not every intense emotion is meant to be fulfilled. What is written for you will not require you to sacrifice your obedience to Allah. It will not demand that you shrink your values or silence your conscience. What is truly meant for you will come with tranquility, not constant chaos. Holding on to someone tightly does not make them stay. What is decreed will reach you effortlessly. What is not decreed will slip away no matter how desperately you try to secure it. The test is not whether you feel deeply. The test is whether you trust Allah more than your feelings. And when you begin to see attachment as a test rather than a guarantee, your perspective shifts. You stop chasing intensity and start seeking barakah. You stop asking, why is this so strong? And begin asking, is this leading me toward Jannah? When you cannot stop replaying someone in your mind, it is often not about them as much as it is about what they awakened inside you. The mind revisits what the heart has not resolved. Overthinking is rarely random. It is usually the echo of an emotion that was never fully processed. You may tell yourself, I just miss them, or I just want clarity. But if you sit quietly and observe your thoughts, you may notice something deeper. Perhaps you are replaying conversations because you wish you had responded differently. Perhaps you are imagining different outcomes because you are trying to rewrite a moment that hurt you. Perhaps you are analyzing their behavior because it triggered an old wound you thought had healed. Allah created the heart with layers. Some layers are visible and others are buried beneath years of experiences, disappointments, and silent tears. When someone enters your life and suddenly you cannot stop thinking about them, it may be because they touched a sensitive place within you, not intentionally perhaps, but deeply. Maybe they made you feel valued in a way you never felt before, and now you fear losing that feeling. Maybe they ignored you and it awakened an old fear of not being enough. Maybe they left without explanation and it stirred memories of abandonment you never confronted. The mind keeps circling the story because the soul is searching for healing. Overthinking is exhausting. It drains your energy, distracts your focus, and steals your peace. But instead of fighting it angrily, what if you approached it with curiosity? Instead of saying, "Why am I so weak?" ask, "What is this revealing about me?" Allah sometimes allows a person to disturb your emotional comfort so that you face parts of yourself you have avoided. You might discover that you rely heavily on external validation. You might realize that you struggle with insecurity. You might see that you attach quickly because you fear being alone. These realizations are not meant to break you. They are invitations to grow. Healing requires honesty. It requires admitting that the pain is not only about the other person. It is also about your expectations, your fears, and your unmet needs. When you bring those emotions to Allah in dua, something shifts. Instead of obsessing over them, you begin working on yourself. The Quran reminds us that true tranquility is found in the remembrance of Allah. If thinking about someone brings more anxiety than peace, it is a sign that your heart is seeking stability in the wrong place. People can inspire emotions, but only Allah can calm them. Sometimes closure does not come from a conversation with the person. It comes from a conversation with Allah. You may never receive the explanation you hoped for. You may never hear the apology you deserved. But when you understand that every experience was permitted by Allah for your growth, your perspective softens. The thoughts may not disappear overnight. Healing is gradual, but as you begin to address the root instead of just the surface, the intensity lessens. You start thinking with awareness instead of obsession. You reflect instead of replaying. And slowly, what once felt overwhelming becomes a lesson that strengthened you, rather than a story that trapped you. When someone constantly occupies your thoughts, your natural reaction may be to fight it or to indulge it. You either try to suppress every feeling, or you allow your mind to wander endlessly in imagined conversations and scenes. Arios. But there is a third way, a way that transforms emotional chaos into spiritual elevation. That way is dua. Instead of letting your thoughts spiral into obsession, you redirect them upward. Every time their name crosses your mind, instead of replaying the past or fantasizing about the future, you whisper, "Ya Allah." In that moment, your attachment shifts from the creation to the Creator. Dua is not just asking for what you want. It is an act of surrender. When you say, "If this person is good for my dunya and akhirah, bring them closer to me in a way that pleases you. And if they are not, remove them from my heart and replace them with something better," you are doing something powerful. You are admitting that Allah knows what you do not know. You are trusting that His wisdom is greater than your emotions. Obsession says, "I need this to work." Dua says, "Ya Allah, choose what is best." There is peace in that shift. When your thoughts become heavy, turn them into istikhara in your daily life. You do not have to wait for a formal prayer every time. You can live in a state of seeking Allah's guidance. Every feeling becomes a doorway to remembrance. Every longing becomes a reminder that your heart ultimately belongs to Him. Sometimes the reason you cannot stop thinking about someone is because you are trying to control the outcome. You are analyzing every sign, every message, every delay. You want certainty. But certainty does not come from overthinking. It comes from tawakkul, trusting Allah completely. When you make sincere dua, you release the burden of control. You are no longer carrying the future on your shoulders. You hand it back to the one who controls hearts. The Prophet ﷺ reminded us that the hearts of people are between the fingers of Allah. He turns them as He wills. If that is true, why exhaust yourself trying to secure what only He can secure. Turning obsession into dua also purifies your intention. Instead of wanting the person for ego, validation, or loneliness, you begin wanting what is pleasing to Allah. You begin asking not just for companionship, but for barakah. Not just for love, but for a love that brings you closer to Jannah. And if they are not written for you, dua softens the detachment. It makes the separation gentle instead of bitter. Because when you sincerely ask Allah to remove someone if they are not good for you, and He does, you recognize it as an answer, not a rejection. The next time your mind drifts toward them, do not panic. Do not drown in imagination. Pause, raise your hands, even if only in your heart, and speak to Allah. Over time, you will notice something beautiful. The thoughts may still come, but they no longer control you. They become reminders to turn back to the one who holds every outcome in His perfect wisdom. Love is one of the strongest emotions Allah placed inside the human heart. It can inspire sacrifice, patience, generosity, and growth. But love was never meant to weaken your relationship with Allah. It was meant to strengthen it. When you begin thinking constantly about someone, you must gently ask yourself, is this attachment elevating my faith? Or is it slowly distracting me from it? There is a type of love that brings tranquility. It encourages modesty. It inspires you to become better, more disciplined, more sincere. It makes you more conscious of Allah, not less. When someone truly cares for you in a halal and dignified way, they respect your boundaries. They do not compete with your salah. They do not pressure you to compromise your values. They remind you of Allah, even indirectly, by their character and their integrity. But there is another type of attachment that feels intense yet unsettled. It pulls your thoughts away from your obligations. Why? Find your khushu in prayer weakening because your mind drifts back to them. You delay acts of worship because you are emotionally distracted. You justify private conversations or behaviors you once considered inappropriate. Slowly, the lines begin to blur. This is when you must pause. Anything that consistently pulls you away from Allah, no matter how emotionally powerful, needs boundaries. It does not mean your feelings are sinful. Feelings are natural. The companions loved deeply. They felt attraction, longing, and affection. But they disciplined their emotions. They did not allow desire to override obedience. If thinking about someone makes you neglect your salah, that is a red flag. If your attachment makes you anxious to the point that your connection with Allah feels distant, that is a sign of imbalance. If you fear losing them more than you fear displeasing Allah, that is a moment for honest reflection. Love in Islam is dignified. It protects your honor. It protects your time. It protects your spirituality. It does not demand secrecy that leads to guilt. It does not isolate you from your values. And it certainly does not make you feel that pleasing someone else is more urgent than pleasing your Creator. Sometimes the heart confuses intensity with sincerity. Just because something feels overwhelming does not mean it is pure. Pure love aligns with obedience. It does not require you to hide, to lie, or to compromise your standards. It comes with sakina, a calm reassurance, not constant emotional turbulence. If your attachment is pulling you away from Allah, the solution is not necessarily to suppress your feelings completely. The solution is to realign them, bring structure, create boundaries. Limit what fuels unnecessary emotional attachment. Increase what strengthens your relationship with Allah. When Allah is truly first in your heart, every other relationship finds its correct place. You can care deeply without being consumed. You can hope without being desperate. You can feel strongly without losing yourself. And that balance is what protects both your dunya and your akhirah. Loss feels final when you are inside it. When someone slowly fades from your life, or when circumstances pull you apart, or when your heart struggles to hold on while everything else is slipping away, it can feel like something essential is being taken from you. You may even question why Allah allowed you to care so deeply if the outcome was separation. But the believer understands something that the heart sometimes forgets. What Allah removes is never random, and it is never a loss in the ultimate sense. Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. His decisions are not based on emotion. They are based on complete knowledge of your future, your weaknesses, your unseen dangers, and your hidden potential. You see the present moment. He sees the entire picture. When someone is removed from your life, it may feel like deprivation, but it may actually be protection. There are connections that feel beautiful yet carry no barakah. They may excite the heart but slowly drain the soul. They may promise companionship